For the six content creators, the pursuit of viral fame became more than just a dream. It became their final performance. Daring stunts, outrageous challenges, and shocking pranks were the price they were willing to pay for a shot at internet stardom. But in the end, their most dangerous feats turned into their tragic legacies. These are the stories of TikTokers whose last videos became their lasting imprint on the digital world. They sought fame, they chased attention, and they pushed their bodies and minds to the edge, all for the thrill of a viral moment. But what happens when that quest for internet glory becomes all-consuming? What happens when the drive to be seen, to be remembered, leads to an irreversible outcome? In the fast-paced world of social media, the stakes have never been higher. What begins as a quest for self-expression, creativity, and fame can quickly spiral into a deadly game. The internet is filled with likes, shares, and views, but it also hides of very real dangers that can't be erased with a simple edit or a do-over button. This is not just a story of viral success. It's a look at the cost of chasing it. Let's dive into the stories of these creators, starting with Jake. Story 1, Jake Martinez, the dance challenge gone wrong. It was July 18th, 2024, and the scorching heat of Las Vegas was oppressive, wrapping the city in a blanket of dry, stifling air. By mid-afternoon, the temperature had climbed to a blistering 112 degrees Fahrenheit, making the usually vibrant strip feel like an oven in the desert. Shops had closed early, and the once bustling streets stood eerily quiet, with most people hiding inside to escape the searing sun. Even the industrial corridor, typically filled with a constant hum of delivery trucks and construction crews, was deserted. The few vehicles that dare venture down the empty roads seemed like lone survivors in a desolate landscape. Jake Martinez, a 22-year-old aspiring TikTok influencer, stood at the edge of this quiet, sun-baked street. For the past several months, he'd been grinding away at his TikTok career, posting car edits, short skits, and random dance clips, but nothing ever stuck. Despite his consistent effort, his follower count remained stagnant, and the viral moment he dreamed of felt as elusive as the shade on this sweltering day. But then, just a few days ago, a dance challenge had gone viral. It was everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You couldn't scroll without seeing someone trying their hand at it. And Jake, ever the optimist, saw this as his chance. This was the moment that could propel him to the fame he so desperately desired. The dance was simple but energetic, with a beat that practically begged you to move. Jake knew it was his shot to finally get noticed. Everyone was doing it, and he was determined to master the routine perfectly. No excuses, no mistakes. He arrived at the industrial area just before sunset, when the heat was finally starting to recede. The golden hour light bathed the streets, casting long, dramatic shadows on the pavement. The temperature had dropped slightly, but the air was still thick with heat. Jake, with his tripod in hand and phone ready, set up his equipment in the middle of the road. He carefully adjusted the camera angle, ensuring that the frame was perfect. The rhythmic tapping of his feet echoed through the empty street as he tested the positioning, stepping back just a few paces to make sure he remained in view while dancing. For Jake, this was it. The moment his TikTok career would change. Every move, every beat had to be flawless. He wasn't just performing for fun. This was his chance to break through. His eyes were locked on the screen, focused on making sure he nailed every twist, spin, and jump, ensuring that the choreography was in perfect sync with the music. The phone's lens became his world. The only thing that mattered was the dance, the challenge, and getting noticed. But in his single-minded pursuit of social media fame, Jake never once glanced around. The street, though empty, was still a public road, and the hustle of the outside world was not as far away as he thought. A delivery van, a Ford Transit, was making its way down the industrial corridor. The driver, just another worker doing his job, was focused on the road, unaware of Jake's presence in the middle of the street. As the van approached, the driver saw the tripod but didn't immediately register a person standing behind it. It wasn't until the van rounded a slight bend in the road and the driver came into full view of Jake that it was too late. The van swerved, but there was no stopping the inevitable. The impact was violent. The sound of metal crashing against flesh echoed in the silent space, breaking the stillness of the air. Jake was thrown several feet from the point of impact, his body tumbling across the rough asphalt. The phone he was filming was still recording, capturing the horrific aftermath. The footage, shaky and unfocused, showed the road in chaos. The van came to stop a few feet away, its engine idling as the driver sat frozen in shock, realizing what just happened. Minutes later, paramedics arrived on the scene. They rushed to Jake's side, but it was clear that the impact had been too severe. His injuries were catastrophic, and despite their best efforts to revive him, he was pronounced dead at the scene. The authorities ruled his death as a tragic accident, a result of pedestrian exposure in an active roadway. In the aftermath, Jake's family, in their grief, made the heart-wrenching decision to deactivate his TikTok account. The platform that had once seemed like a beacon of hope had now become a painful reminder of a life lost too soon. Jake's story became a somber cautionary tale, a stark reminder how the pursuit of viral fame can sometimes blind us to the very real dangers that exist in the world. His death raised questions about the risks involved in chasing online recognition at any cost. While the idea of becoming an influencer and gaining widespread attention can be intoxicating, Jake's tragic end revealed the dark side of fame, a side often ignored in the allure of likes, shares, and followers. Jake's TikTok, which had promised him the attention he longed for, instead became a digital memorial. His family, friends, and followers mourned not only his passing, but also the way he had left us. Chasing something as intangible as a viral moment, unaware of the deadly risks lurking just outside his phone screen. In the end, Jake's life, while short-lived, left behind a message that reverberated across the digital world: that the quest for fame, when pursued recklessly, can lead to devastating consequences. It serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes, in the quest for recognition and success, we forget to look up and see the world around us. The real, tangible world that can sometimes be far more dangerous than any digital platform. For Jake, it was a dance challenge that took his life, but for many, it's a lesson in the importance of balance. Social media is a tool, powerful, yes, but it's also a reminder of the world that exists outside of it, a world that we must not ignore, no matter how tempting the pursuit of fame may be. Story 2. Rachel Kim, The Stage Confrontation. It was November 12, 2023, in Seattle's iconic Pike Place Market. The air was crisp and damp, carrying the unmistakable blend of rain, fresh coffee, and the salty tang of the nearby Elliott Bay. By mid-afternoon, the narrow pathways of the market were teeming with tourists, each crowding around the colorful stalls selling fresh produce, seafood, and locally made crafts. Amid this vibrant chaos, Rachel Kim, a 23-year-old TikTok creator, was busy setting up for her latest stunt. Rachel had become well known on social media for her stage kindness tests, videos where she created scenarios in which strangers were encouraged to step in and help in uncomfortable situations. These harmless acts of goodwill had earned her a steady following, but as her fame grew, so did her ambition. She no longer just wanted to create viral moments for the sake of likes and followers. She wanted something more. She wanted to leave her audience with their jaws dropped, something that would spark conversation far beyond her platform. And so, Rachel decided to take it to the next level. She envisioned a stage confrontation, a fake but convincing bag snatching in the middle of the busy market. The idea was simple. Rachel would act as if someone was attempting to steal her bag. The goal wasn't just to create a scene, but to capture the raw, unfiltered reactions of people around her, showcasing how everyday citizens would react to a crime happening right before them. Rachel had always been careful with her stunts, making sure they were shocking but not harmful. But this time, things would be different. This time, she was pushing the boundaries. She recruited her friend Marcus, a fellow content creator who was eager to help with a viral project. They rehearsed the scene meticulously. Marcus would approach Rachel, grab her bag, and run off with it. Rachel, in turn, would briefly fight back, making it look like she was struggling to hold on to her bag, before de-escalating the situation by allowing him to take it. The confrontation would be short but intense. To capture the reactions of the unsuspecting public, Rachel set up multiple phones around the scene, aiming to get the perfect shot from every angle. As Rachel stood on the steps of a cafe, scanning the crowd for the right moment, she felt a sense of excitement. This was it. This was a stunt that would push her into the realm of viral sensation. Her heart raced with anticipation as she prepared to launch the fake robbery. The market was bustling with people, But no one had any idea what was about to unfold. The moment Marcus made his move, grabbing Rachel's bag and running down the staircase, the scene took a turn she never expected. The people around her, already on edge due to the crowded, confined space of the market, instantly reacted. They weren't just passive bystanders. They leaped into action. In a flash, several people rushed toward them, trying to intervene, thinking they were witnessing a real crime in progress. The tension in the air was palpable. Someone screamed. Others shouted for security. Panic quickly spread through the crowd, and chaos erupted. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the situation was spinning out of control. What had started as a carefully planned stunt had turned into an uncontrollable scene. The market security team was quickly alerted, and the crowd began to block exits, only adding to the chaos. People were pushing and shoving, trying to either flee or help, but the entire scene had become a frenzy. Desperate to leave the escalating situation, Rachel grabbed her phones and turned to rush out of the scene. She needed to get away. She knew she couldn't risk her stunt going any further. In her haste, she bolted down a slippery staircase, unaware of the danger the wet steps posed. The rain from earlier in the day had left the pavement slick, and Rachel's feet lost traction. Her body slid out from under her, and before she could react, she crashed headfirst into the concrete with a sickening thud. The noise of the crowd quickly quieted, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to stop. People rushed to her side, but it was clear from the angle at which she lay that something was terribly wrong. A few bystanders tried to help, calling out for someone to get medical assistance, but Rachel remained motionless. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Rachel had suffered catastrophic head trauma, and despite their best efforts, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Her sudden and tragic death was a direct result of a viral stunt she had orchestrated in the hopes of furthering her social media fame. What was meant to be another viral video, another moment to shock and awe her audience, had instead turned into a devastating loss. Her family, left to cope with the loss, made a decision to deactivate her TikTok account. It was a bittersweet move. What had once been a source of pride and excitement for Rachel had now become a haunting reminder of the dangers of seeking viral fame at all costs. Rachel had always been known for her infectious enthusiasm and her commitment to her fans. She had built a following not just by creating content, but by engaging with her audience, always promising more stunts, more surprises. But in the end, that very ambition cost her everything. Rachel's story became a tragic reminder of the high stakes of the digital age. The pursuit of viral fame, when taken too far, can lead to devastating consequences. The desire to shock, to entertain, and to stand out in the ever-growing sea of content can sometimes cloud our judgment of what is truly important, our safety and well-being. Rachel's untimely death serves as a warning that the line between harmless entertainment and real danger can be razor-thin, and when crossed, it can have irreversible consequences. Her death sparked a broader conversation about the lengths people are willing to go to for online recognition and the dangers of performing stunts without fully understanding the risks involved. Rachel's fans mourn not only the loss of a beloved creator, but the reminder that the pursuit of digital fame, while alluring, is not without its consequences. For Rachel, it was one final stunt for the cameras, one final push for viral glory. But for those left behind, it was a painful lesson in the importance of responsibility, safety, and the perils of seeking fame at all costs. Story 3. Brandon Walsh, The Underwater Challenge. Brandon Walsh, a 24-year-old fitness enthusiast, had built a name for himself in the world of TikTok. His brand, Aqua Fitness Revolution, was centered around underwater exercises combined with breath-holding challenges, a unique twist on fitness content that drew in viewers from all walks of life. With a following of over 2,000 dedicated fans, Brandon had turned his passion for aquatic fitness into a thriving social media presence. His videos were a mix of skill, daring stunts, and a commitment to pushing the boundaries of human endurance. But on May 7th, 2023, Brandon made a decision that would ultimately cost him everything. Brandon's brand was built on daring breath-holding stunts while performing underwater exercises. His followers admired his incredible ability to control his body and defy its limits. His videos often featured him holding his breath for extended periods while doing push-ups, squats, or even weights underwater. While each stunt was thrilling, it was also always controlled. Brandon knew his body well and never pushed beyond what he knew he could handle. This time, however, Brandon had bigger plans. He wanted to do something that would set him apart, something so extreme that would draw attention on a global scale. He decided to live stream his next challenge, a breath-holding contest with himself. The goal? To hold his breath for as long as possible while performing a series of increasingly difficult underwater exercises. It would be a test of mental and physical endurance, and Brandon was determined to show the world just how far he could go. The live stream began as usual with Brandon's signature warm-up, calm, controlled movements in the water as he demonstrated his impressive breath-holding abilities to his viewers. His audience, accustomed to watching Brandon defy the limits of his body, was excited. The comments flooded in, "Go, Brandon, you got this. Show us what you're made of. Aqua King." As the minutes passed, Brandon's breathing slowed. His face, calm and focused, remained under the water as he continued to perform simple exercises, push-ups, squats, and lunges, while holding his breath. It was mesmerizing to watch. The combination of his grace in the water and his sheer willpower was something that made Brandon a unique figure in the online fitness world. His followers cheered him on, encouraging him with every passing second. It was a stunning display of control and discipline, and Brandon was clearly enjoying the challenge, his mind set on the idea of breaking his own record. But as time went on, Brandon's attempts to push the limits became more dangerous. He extended the duration of each exercise, holding his breath for longer and longer periods of time. He was determined to show his followers that nothing was impossible, but with each minute that passed, his body was becoming more deprived of oxygen. The live stream continued without interruption, Brandon's face still calm and focused. But after several minutes of holding his breath underwater, something changed. Brandon began to lose control. His movement slowed down, and his ability to maintain balance started to waver. He was still under the water, his body continuing to float effortlessly. But something wasn't right. His viewers, initially mesmerized by his feat, started to notice. At first, they thought it was part of the stunt, a dramatic effect designed to make the challenge even more intense. The comments continued to flood the screen. "You're crushing it, Brandon. Keep going, you're almost there." But as the seconds stretched into a minute, then two, and still no movement came from Brandon, the excitement quickly turned into panic. "Is he okay?" one viewer typed. "Brandon? Come on, man." Another comment appeared, followed by a slew of worried emojis. But there was still no movement. The screen remained locked on Brandon's still body, floating lifelessly at the bottom of the pool. Panic spread quickly throughout the chat. Some viewers began calling for help, urging each other to notify emergency services. "Someone call 911, one user typed, their voice trembling with fear. Seconds felt like minutes as the live stream continued to capture Brandon's motionless form. It was clear now that something had gone horribly wrong. Emergency services were contacted immediately, but by the time they arrived on the scene, it was too late. Brandon had been submerged for over 4 minutes without oxygen. Despite the best efforts of paramedics to revive him, he was pronounced dead at the scene. What had started as a stunt for viral fame had ended in a tragedy. His followers, who had been glued to their screens, were left in shock. They had watched a man, a person they admired and cheered for, lose his life in real time, all for pursuit of a breath-holding record. The live stream, meant to be a celebration of human endurance, had become the chilling last moments of a man pushing himself too far. The aftermath was overwhelming. Brandon's family, devastated by the loss, requested that his social media accounts be shut down. His fans, still reeling from the event, were left with the haunting footage of the final moment of the live stream, a grim reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in pursuit of fame and recognition. Brandon's story served as a tragic reminder of the dangers of pushing oneself beyond the limits without understanding the real risks. In a world obsessed with viral fame, sometimes the line between entertainment and reality can blur too easily. Brandon had wanted to show his followers what it meant to push past physical boundaries, but in the end, it cost him his life. The Aqua Fitness revolution, a brand that had once inspired thousands, became a cautionary tale. His followers, in their grief, reflected on the dangers of chasing online notoriety and the importance of knowing when to stop. It was a message that, in the harshest of ways, reminded everyone that some challenges, no matter how impressive, are not worth risking everything for. Story 4. Carlos Rivera, the Ocean Fitness Stunt. Carlos Rivera, a 20-year-old fitness enthusiast, had carved out a unique niche for himself in the world of social media. Known for his daring ocean-based fitness challenges, he had built a devoted following by performing workouts in the unpredictable, often unforgiving waters of the ocean. His fans admired his strength and resilience, as he showcased his ability to adapt and perform challenging exercises in one of nature's most chaotic environments. The thrill of watching him push his body to the limit in the face of such adversity captivated audiences, and his fame continued to grow. But on February 14th, 2023, Carlos decided to take his stunts to the next level, a decision that would prove to be fatal. It was a typical morning in Carlos' training routine when he arrived at the beach. The sun was bright, and the waves were gentle, perfect conditions for a good workout. He began his usual exercises in waist-deep water, performing squats, lunges, and push-ups, the ocean waves lapping at his feet. His friend Miguel, who had been accompanying him on these workouts for weeks, was with him that day as well, paddling in a kayak to film the session. The two had become accustomed to the ocean's unpredictable nature, but it was always part of the thrill for Carlos, adapting to the waves, learning how to work with the currents. As the morning wore on, Carlos decided to take his workout further. He had completed his usual routine in the shallows and was feeling confident, so he made the decision to venture farther out into the open water. The waves were still manageable, and he felt strong, eager to push his limits and challenge himself in ways that would make for an even more exciting video. As Carlos waded deeper into the ocean, the water began to rise above his waist and then his chest. The current, once gentle, started to shift, pulling him further from the shore. At first, Carlos was unfazed. He had done this before and was used to the ebb and flow of the ocean. But the farther he ventured, the stronger the pull of the rip current became, and soon he realized he was no longer able to move forward with ease. Miguel, still on the shore, had been filming the session when he noticed that Carlos was drifting farther and farther from the beach. Realizing that the current was becoming more intense, Miguel quickly grabbed his paddle and began to make his way toward Carlos in the kayak. But the ocean, with its waves crashing in every direction, made it nearly impossible for Miguel to reach him in time. Carlos, aware that he was being pulled out to sea, began to panic. He tried to swim back toward the shore, but the strength of the rip current was overwhelming. With each stroke, he found himself being pulled farther and farther away from safety. His muscles began to tire, his breathing heavy as exhaustion set in. The ocean, once his workout playground, had become an unpredictable and relentless adversary. Miguel, who had struggled to get closer to Carlos, realized the severity of the situation. He paddled desperately, calling out to Carlos, but the waves were too strong and the current was too powerful for him to make any real progress. In an instant, Carlos was swept beneath the surface, disappearing from view. Miguel's heart sank as he frantically searched the water. The realization hit him hard. His friend was in serious trouble, and he couldn't get to him in time. Miguel screamed for help, but the isolation of the beach left him with few options. The strength of the current had taken Carlos far from the safety of the shore, and now there was nothing he could do but wait for rescue. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, and soon the sound of sirens could be heard in the distance. Rescue teams arrived at the scene, launching boats and diving into the water in search of Carlos. Miguel, still in the kayak, could do nothing but watch as the professionals combed the area. The water was calm again, but the feeling of helplessness lingered. Hours passed before the rescue teams finally located Carlos. His body was found some distance from where he had disappeared beneath the surface. The exhaustion from battling the rip current and his desperate attempt to swim back to shore had taken its toll. Carlos had drowned from the combined effects of exhaustion and entrapment in the rip current. The search, while successful in recovering his body, was too late to save him. The tragedy struck Carlos' followers like a punch to the gut. His videos, once full of life and energy, were now reminders of the dangers inherent in pushing the human body to extremes. The allure of ocean-based fitness challenges, while inspiring, came with risks that Carlos had underestimated. His death, while deeply saddening, highlighted the harsh reality of working with nature, especially when nature can turn unpredictable and unforgiving in the blink of an eye. Carlos' family, devastated by their loss, made the difficult decision to deactivate his social media accounts. His fans mourned the loss of a man who had inspired them to push their own physical limits. But his story also served as a stark reminder of the importance of respecting the power of nature and the dangers of taking unnecessary risks. Carlos' death was a tragic reminder that even the most skilled and experienced individuals can be caught off guard by the raw power of the ocean. It wasn't just a physical strength that was needed to survive in such conditions. It was the understanding of when to stop, when to retreat, and when to acknowledge that the ocean's force was simply too much to handle. In the wake of Carlos' passing, his story sparked discussions about the need for safety precautions in extreme sports, particularly when nature is involved. While Carlos had always promoted pushing physical limits, his final moments were a sobering reminder of the importance of listening to the environment around you, understanding its unpredictable nature, and knowing when to call it quits before it's too late. Carlos Rivera, known for his ocean-based fitness stunts, had left a legacy that would live on, but his death also became a cautionary tale for others. His story urged people to respect the ocean's power, remember their limits, and understand that sometimes the most impressive feat is simply knowing when to stop. Story 5, Derek Johnson, the Thermal Shock Challenge. On August 29, 2024, Derek Johnson, a 19-year-old fitness influencer from Phoenix, Arizona, prepared to take on a challenge unlike any other. Known for his extreme stunts, Derek had built a brand centered around thermal conditioning, where he subjected his body to extreme heat and cold to build both physical and mental toughness. His followers were drawn to his ability to endure some of the harshest conditions imaginable, pushing his body beyond what most would deem safe. But on that hot summer day, Derek was about to attempt his most dangerous challenge yet, the Thermal Shock Challenge. The concept was simple but extreme. Derek would exercise in 118 degrees Fahrenheit heat for 30 minutes, wearing extra layers of clothing to increase the strain on his body. Once the half-hour mark was up, he would immediately jump into a bathtub filled with ice. The idea was that the sudden shock of the transition from intense heat to freezing cold would push his physical and mental limits, testing his resilience like never before. Derek had already built a loyal following of fans who eagerly watched his every move on social media. His content revolved around pushing his body to the edge, whether it was running in extreme temperatures, lifting weights in unbearable conditions, or enduring long periods of physical strain. His followers admired his dedication and, perhaps, the sheer audacity of his stunts. To them, Derek wasn't just an influencer. He was a symbol of strength and mental fortitude. As Derek set up the live stream in his apartment, he could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins. The camera was rolling, and his fans were already tuning in to watch him take on this extreme challenge. Derek had done similar stunts before, but this one felt different, more intense, more dangerous, and more likely to garner the viral attention he craved. He knew this stunt would set him apart from the countless other fitness influencers out there. The live stream began with Derek performing intense exercises in the suffocating heat. The apartment was deliberately kept at a sweltering 118 degrees Fahrenheit to simulate conditions that were far beyond what the human body was meant to withstand. Derek was drenched in sweat as he completed burpees, push-ups, and jumping jacks, all while wearing extra layers of clothing designed to raise his body temperature even further. His breathing was labored, and his movements, though determined, were becoming less coordinated as the minutes ticked by. As the clock struck 30 minutes, Derek's body was showing clear signs of heat exhaustion. His skin was flushed a deep red, and sweat was pouring off of him. He was visibly struggling to keep going, but his determination remained unshaken. The comments from his viewers were a mix of encouragement and concern. Some praised him for his resilience, while others questioned whether he was pushing himself too far. "You're crushing it, Derek," one viewer typed. "Be careful, man. This is getting dangerous," another comment warned. Despite the concerns, Derek ignored the growing signs of distress in his body. He was determined to finish what he had started. His goal was not just to entertain his followers, but to prove to himself that he could endure the unimaginable. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the timer hit 0. Derek wasted no time. He jumped straight into the ice bath that had been prepared for the second part of the challenge. The cold water, which was filled with chunks of ice, should have offered him relief after the intense heat he had just subjected his body to. But instead, the shock was far more than his body could handle. The temperature shift from 118 degrees Fahrenheit to near freezing was too extreme. Derek's body went into shock as the cold water gripped him, sending an electrical surge of pain through his muscles and veins. His heart began to race uncontrollably, and his body started shivering violently. The live stream captured his erratic movements as his chest heaved, trying to catch his breath, his hands trembling uncontrollably. "Derek, are you okay?" one concerned viewer typed, noticing his sudden discomfort. But Derek couldn't respond. His body was in the midst of a full-on physical crisis. His shivering grew more violent, his movements less coordinated. His skin was pale, and his lips had begun to turn blue. The camera, still running, captured the horror of what was happening, his audience watching in disbelief as Derek's body struggled to keep up with the shock he had inflicted upon it. Within seconds, Derek's body went limp. The violent shivering stopped, and he sank beneath the surface of the ice bath, motionless. Panic erupted in the comments section. "Someone call for help," one viewer shouted. "This isn't part of the stunt," another one frantically typed. The situation escalated quickly as viewers watched helplessly, unsure of what was happening. Emergency services were called immediately, and a team rushed to Derek's apartment. But by the time they arrived, it was too late. Derek had gone into cardiac arrest from the extreme shock to his system. Despite the efforts of paramedics to revive him, Derek was pronounced dead at the scene. The tragic event left Derek's fans stunned, heartbroken, and questioning the limits of online stunts. His quest for viral fame, fueled by his desire to push the boundaries of what the human body could endure, had ended in tragedy. The stunt that was meant to showcase his strength, determination, and ability to endure the most extreme conditions had ultimately cost him his life. Derek's death became a sobering reminder of the dangers associated with pushing the body to extremes, especially when it involves subjecting oneself to unpredictable and harsh conditions. It also highlighted the risks that come with trying to gain fame at all costs, often ignoring the very real consequences of such reckless pursuits. In the wake of Derek's passing, his family requested that his social media accounts be deactivated, and his followers mourned the loss of a young man who had inspired them to push their own limits. Derek's story served as a cautionary tale for others. The pursuit of viral fame may seem appealing, but it is not worth risking your life for. Story 6, Mia Thompson, The Spicy Food Challenge. On October 3rd, 2022, Mia Thompson, a 25-year-old content creator, prepared for what she promised would be her most extreme challenge yet. Mia had already built a massive following for her spicy food challenges, where she would eat some of the hottest peppers known to man without showing dramatic reactions. Her calm, composed demeanor in the face of intense spice was part of what made her videos so captivating. Fans marvel at how easily she handled the fiery heat of peppers that would leave most people gasping for air. As her popularity grew, so did the intensity of her challenges. By that October day, Mia had become a staple in the world of extreme eating challenges. She devoured ghost peppers habaneros, and even the infamous Trinidad scorpion pepper, in her quest to push the limits of her spice tolerance. But for her latest stunt, Mia planned to take things even further. She announced that she would eat 10 different types of peppers, each one progressively hotter than the last, all in one sitting. Her fans were ecstatic, eagerly awaiting the live stream. To them, Mia was unbeatable. No peppers too hot, no challenge too extreme. The live stream began like all of Mia's others, cheerful, confident, and filled with anticipation. Mia sat in front of the camera, smiling as she introduced the peppers she would be eating. From the milder varieties to the blistering hot Carolina Reaper, she explained each pepper's origin, heat level, and Scoville rating. Her followers eagerly tuned in, watching as Mia prepared for her self-imposed heat marathon. Mia, ever calm, began with the first pepper. She chewed it methodically, showing no signs of discomfort. The comments exploded with admiration. "You're amazing, Mia. I can't believe you make this look so easy. Go, Mia, you've got this." With each successive pepper, Mia's confidence only grew. She breezed through the milder peppers, smiling and talking to her fans as if she were eating a regular snack. Her ability to handle the heat made the challenge seem almost effortless, and her followers couldn't get enough. But as Mia reached the more intense peppers, the super hot varieties like the ghost pepper and scorpion pepper, the heat began to take its toll. Her face reddened, and her breathing became slightly more labored. But she pressed on, determined to finish the challenge. She wiped her brow, took a sip of water, and smiled at the camera, reassured her fans that everything was fine. The comments poured in, "You're so strong, Mia. I'm sweating just watching you." It was at the final stage of the challenge that things started to go horribly wrong. Mia had reached the Carolina Reaper, one of the hottest peppers in the world. With over 2 million Scoville heat units, it was a pepper that many seasoned spice eaters would consider too extreme to handle. But Mia, ever fearless, took a large bite and chewed it slowly. She continued to smile at the camera, her usual composure intact. However, within seconds of swallowing the pepper, Mia began to cough uncontrollably. The coughing wasn't just a slight reaction to the heat. It was violent and unrelenting. Her breath became labored, and she frantically tried to clear her throat, clutching the counter for support. The live stream captured the escalating panic. As Mia struggled to breathe, the comments began flooding in with concern. "Mia, are you okay? Something's wrong. Call 911. Mia's face twisted in pain as she desperately tried to inhale, but the hot pepper mash had caused an acute airway obstruction. Her airway, already inflamed from the extreme heat of the peppers, became completely blocked, preventing her from breathing. She gasped for air, but it was clear that the situation was dire. The camera continued to record, capturing Mia's frantic movements as she collapsed out of view. The screen filled with her viewers' growing panic. Within minutes, emergency services were on the scene, alerted by concerned viewers who had called 911. The live stream had become a chaotic mix of desperate comments and the haunting image of Mia struggling to breathe. Paramedics arrived and quickly worked to clear her airway, but by the time they reached her, it was too late. Mia was later confirmed dead from acute airway obstruction caused by the pepper mash. Despite the efforts of the emergency responders, her body had been unable to handle the extreme shock caused by the pepper, leading to fatal suffocation. Mia's tragic death left the internet reeling. What was meant to be just another viral food challenge had taken a devastating turn. Her followers, who had watched her handle even the most extreme peppers with ease, were now left in shock and disbelief. The realization that a simple food challenge could lead to such a tragic outcome hit hard, especially for the many fans who had admired Mia's seemingly limitless tolerance for spice. Her family, devastated by the loss, made the heartbreaking decision to deactivate her social media accounts. Mia's fans mourned the loss of a young woman who had become a beloved figure in the world of online content. Her death highlighted the very real dangers of extreme food challenges that many content creators took on for the sake of likes and views, often underestimating the risks involved. Mia's story became a cautionary tale, especially for those who participated in similar challenges. The allure of viral fame, the drive for more views and followers, had pushed Mia to take on a stunt that, despite her previous success with spicy foods, proved too dangerous. In the aftermath, many in the influencer community began to reflect on the importance of knowing when to stop, recognizing that some challenges come with risks that should not be ignored. For Mia, it was a simple desire to entertain, to push her limits for the sake of her fans. But for her followers, her tragic end was a painful reminder that extreme stunts, no matter how harmless they seem, can have fatal consequences. Conclusion: these 6 creators pushed their limits for viral fame, chasing the fleeting thrill of internet stardom. But in the end, their tragic stories serve as a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers that lie beneath the surface of social media fame. As we move forward, we must ask ourselves, what price are we willing to pay for the fleeting moment of fame? Is it worth sacrificing our safety, our well-being, and our lives in pursuit of likes and shares? We must rethink the way we approach online fame. Social media is not worth risking everything. Let these stories serve as a warning. Share these stories with others. Spread awareness. And let's start a conversation about the dangers of extreme content for the sake of virality. Remember, what you do today can define your legacy, but it should never cost you your life. If you or someone you know is thinking about creating extreme content, please take a moment to reflect on the risks involved. Be safe. Be mindful. Be responsible. Click the next video to learn more about the consequences of internet fame and how we can work together to make social media a safer place for everyone